Shaq, all right.
Papa John's wanted to surprise people, so we put Shaquille O'Neal live on video screens inside pizza boxes. Let's listen.
It's pizza time.
Shaq? What are you doing in a box?
This is my new Shaq-a-Roni pizza. Extra cheese, extra pepperoni right to the edge. Biggest slices in Papa John history. And it's bigger than pizza because $1 of each sale is donated to Papa John's Foundation for Building Community.
Try the new Shaq-a-Roni for just $12, only at Papa John's. Offer good through 8/23/20. Prices and participation may vary.
Hello, everybody. It's July 28th, or is it July 29th? July 29th, Wednesday. Hello, everybody. This is DJ Blue Radio, the J Blue Show, my podcast streaming live on Spreaker.com and Spreaker Podcast Player. And I have a special guest with me right now. Her name is Cheryl Rose. How you doing today, Cheryl Rose?
Good morning, Jay Blue. I am fantastic, and thank you so very much for having me on your show again. Great to hear your voice.
Thank you very much. So, tell us, Cheryl Rose, tell us who you are and what do you do?
Well, I'm a person of many, I wear many hats, Jay Blue. As you know, I have my own podcast stations. With Spreaker, Heal Us, and also Let's Talk with Cheryl Rose. And I just talk on out there about a lot of different subjects, interviewing a lot of different people of interest that I think others would find extremely helpful in their lives as mentors or people that they can follow as examples. And I also have my YouTube station, which is Cheryl Rose Spirit Guidance, where I do a lot of live videos and also tape videos on my spiritual life and how I can help others through positive manifestation techniques, positive ways of living their life, and how to overcome a lot of obstacles that might be facing people today. And it ranges anywhere from the teens all the way on up to the senior ages. And I've been doing that since I was a young kid. And then when the age of Aquarius hit, boom, I was on the media circle. So here I am. And I believe that's how we met each other.
That's right. All right. Thank you for sharing, Cheryl Rose. And so how are you doing right now?
I'm great.
Where are you at right now?
I'm on the radio with you. Right now, I'm in my home in New Jersey. I'm in the quarantining portion here of our lives, and I'm right outside of New York City, about 10 miles, not even. And I am broadcasting here with you, and later on I'll be doing some private readings and maybe another broadcast on my own. It all depends on how much I have left to do during the day and who calls me.
Cheryl Rose, what job or profession do you most identify yourself with?
I identify myself with as a communicator, and I would like to say mentor to others.
A communicator and mentor to others. That's great.
Yes.
So, professionally, what's your goal, Cheryl Rose?
Professionally, my goal is to have my own show syndicated and then broadcasted, whether it's Let's Talk with Cheryl Rose or the Cheryl Rose Show. And I would be able to have a nice live audience, as it used to be before this COVID started. That was the goal. So we had to switch the goal from not having a live audience to being in a studio and doing it over the broadcast. I have a book coming out. Actually, it's in triplicate, and that is the goal, to get that published, and that will describe in triplicate the best way I could say who Cheryl Rose is, how I started, where I came from, and the obstacles I faced, and how I overcame and struggled through and made it to where I am today, which was no easy feat, because in order to get anything done or any goal reached, the plan has to be enacted, and sometimes there are roadblocks. So plan A, B, and C has to be ready to rock and roll.
All right, all right. And Cheryl Rose, can you tell us where can we find your podcast and where can we listen and find your shows?
Absolutely. First of all, if you go on to Spreaker, Spreaker Radio, which we're on right now, thankfully, you can look me up under Let's Talk with Cheryl Rose, or Heal Us, or just type in Cheryl Rose and they'll give you all of the broadcasts that I've made over the months that have been downloaded with other individuals who have interviewed me, and vice versa. And you could also find me on YouTube under Cheryl Rose Spirit Guidance. And my phone number is area code 201-708-3841. And that is the easiest way to get a hold of me.
And do you have a booking email or a contact email?
Yes, sir, I certainly do. That's Cheryl Rose 1966 at gmail.com.
Thank you.
HERYL ROSE 1966 at gmail.com.
Cheryl Rose 1966 at gmail.com.
That's correct.
Thank you for sharing. Everybody, thank you for listening and tuning in. You're listening to episode 13, Cheryl Rose, live on my podcast at Spreaker.com and Spreaker Podcast Player. And this episode will be available on demand on YouTube under Immortal Master Floppy. And Cheryl Rose is with us today. Can you tell us more about what would you do if you were not podcasting?
If I was not podcasting, I would have to go and round up as many people as possible and get them into a hotel ballroom and do my public speaking, which is what I used to do before broadcasting was available to me. And before COVID shut us down, we'd go and get a ballroom in a big, big hotel that seats 400 to 500 people and start talking and explaining my point of view, my ability to teach people how to think positive, to use the law of attraction to the best of their ability, and how to set goals and overcome obstacles. Think so positively, I can teach them how to manifest the goal to become reality. And that's what I've been doing. So I would do it live. And if I could stand in front of a street corner and gather them that way, that's how I would do it. It's so important to me to get my message out. And also people who would want to talk to me about spiritual topics that I work on, they would be able to just come right on up to me because I have to be available all the time to everyone. And if social media, podcasting was not available, I would have to find another social media outlet, which would be Facebook or YouTube, and then send it out into the airwaves that way.
Thank you for sharing. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. That's very interesting. Now, Cheryl Rose, we want to know, what's your biggest episode?
Wow. My biggest episode would have to be the one that I did with you. I would say months back, and I think you entitled it Another Wonderful Day. And we had about an hour and a half of broadcasting, and it was question and answers from you, and we had a lot of interaction with other people in your studio, and I did some live readings for guests in your studio, and everybody was sort of floored because the energy was perfect, and I was on point with my answers, and I kept everything diplomatic, and yet made everybody laugh and chuckle at the same time, because we cannot take life seriously. We have to take life with a grain of salt and smile and laugh at any adversity, because that's the way we can overcome. But we met, and we had such an impact. I do believe the two of us on that podcast that day, and I would say that would go down in history as number one. The other interviews I've done would follow suit, but I would say that would be the one, Jay, the one with you. And we did 2 or 3 together, but the longest one that we did was with Unique and Lady Chance. That's the one I'm referring to.
Nice. Thank you, Cheryl Rose.
Yes.
Everybody, we really love you. Thank you for tuning in. We love you, Cheryl Rose. You're listening to this episode. This is episode 13, Cheryl Rose, on my podcast, DJ Blue Radio, The J Blue Show, streaming live from Spreaker.com and Spreaker Podcast Player. And this episode will be available on demand on YouTube under Immortal Master Floppy. And Cheryl Rose has shared with us some very amazing things. I'm just asking her questions, and she's coming up with some really great answers. Cheryl Rose, tell us, what do you love about your job and why?
Oh, I love being able to talk and explain and broadcast what I know, what I feel, what I hear, and what I know to be true. And I enjoy the interaction with the other person on the other line. I enjoy being able to reach people. I'm a communicator and a lover of humanity, and I'm always there for the underdog. And I love to be a part of making people's lives better in some way, shape, or form, whether it's making them laugh or helping them overcome or instructing them on how to see something, a point of view differently that they might not have known. I love to be able to generate that kind of energy through the radio waves or through some kind of wave. I love to be able to help others, and the gifts that I've been given, I've worked on them and continually worked on them, and I just enjoy that so very much. I enjoy getting better too, and being out there like a person like you and all the others. And I'm on Lucky episode 13. I am on Lucky 13 today. That really gives me a joke, because 13 is a lucky number. It's phenomenal. 3 and 1 is 4. Stability.
For sure. For sure.
That's
Thank
right.
you. Yeah, thank you for being on this episode, Cheryl Rose. We really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's wonderful. Cheryl Rose, can you tell us one of your favorite or most inspirational places you like to go?
Sure. One of the most beautiful places I've been is in Arizona, Sedona, Arizona. It's a beautiful, beautiful structured mountains that you just cannot believe have been created. The colors of the mountains are actually red. It's beautiful. The air is beautiful. The people are lovely. And it's more of a tourist town now, but it has a lot of history going back. And when I went out there as a young kid, that's where I found a lot of spiritual help and spiritual understanding, where I was starting to learn about myself. And I've been out there several times. And going forward from that, I would say Southern California, the Newport Beach area, the Huntington Beach area, beautiful. Your area, your neck of the woods. I had lived out in California for a short period of time, and it was phenomenal, phenomenal. And if you want to go into Europe, Paris, France was beautiful. London was beautiful. Italy was beautiful. The historical structures, the beautiful art work that goes on, the heritage and the cultures that are so unique and different to what we have here in the States, and meeting new and different people from all over. Those areas to me have been off the wall. Some of the tropical islands I found to be beautiful, with the beautiful fish when I went snorkeling, things of that nature, the color of the water, just beautiful, beautiful Virgin Islands.
That sounds
those natures.
That sounds really nice, really wonderful.
Oh yes, and I hope to be able to travel again soon someday, so that I can go back and see these things and even explore more. There's so much I want to do.
Oh, you will. You will. Cheryl Rose, will you tell us, what jobs have you done other than being a podcaster?
Oh, wow. I have been a model of fur coats, model of clothes, model of my face, my hands, modeling shoes. As growing up, I have also been a concierge at a hotel, and that was unreal. It was beautiful. It was in Times Square, and I was encouraging people to see the theater, and I had seen so many beautiful performances, and I would explain to people coming in, tourists, what shows I would recommend and what shows I would steer away from if they had younger kids, or what restaurants to go to.
Thank you, Cheryl Rose. That's a great answer.
Yes. And I also used to own several other companies, transportation companies, limousine services. I walked away from some of those businesses because they just weren't giving me sanity.
Okay.
So walked away from that and went into something that was more profitable for my own psyche.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, that leads to the next question, Cheryl Rose. Are you ready?
Oh boy, I'm ready.
All right. What's the best piece of advice you've been given?
Be true to yourself.
Be true to yourself.
True to yourself. You will be true to yourself. You will then follow through and be true to others. And if you're true to yourself, you can do something about it. You can work on yourself. But the words be true to yourself. And this way you take inventory of your own self, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent. Those are the best words that anybody ever told me.
Okay.
Besides, don't walk under a bridge late at night.
All
Be
right.
true to yourself, and those words will take you miles and miles and miles of life lived, well lived. I do believe.
Everybody be true to yourself. And let's give Cheryl Rose a round of applause. All right, we're back again. You're listening to episode 13, Cheryl Rose, streaming live from my podcast, DJ Blue Radio, The J Blue Show, on Spreaker.com and Spreaker Podcast Player. And this episode will be available on YouTube under Immortal Mr. Floppy. And this episode is hosted by J Blue Sanders. And my special guest, Cheryl Rose, is still with us online. She's in New Jersey, New York, United States. How you doing so far, Cheryl Rose?
Oh, great. Wonderful. I'm so glad to be here. Happy day today.
Happy day, yes. Wednesday, July 29th. We have a few to several more questions. And if we have more time, let us know. And if you are running out of time, just let us know.
I have dedicated as much time as you need. I am so happy to be on this broadcast with you.
Thank you so much. And it's a blessing and a pleasure to have you on this episode, Cheryl Rose. We love you and we love the listeners and the fans. Make sure that you please like and comment and share this episode. Episode 13, Cheryl Rose, streaming live from Spreaker.com and Spreaker Podcast Player on my podcast, DJ Blue Radio, The J Blue Show. Please leave a message in the Immortal Master Floppy chat room, live on Spreaker.com and Spreaker Podcast Player. Cheryl Rose, thanks again for being here today with us. And we have a few. We're gonna go to the next question, and this one is
Okay.
This one is a little political, and we don't want to get too political and too religious or anything like that. But I ask everybody this: do you think,
Sure.
Cheryl Rose, do you think Donald Trump should be in office, and do you think he needs to be out of office?
Okay. Here we go. I think that right now, if we keep him where he is, it would keep us status quo, everybody in place right now. We could continue finishing the plan of getting what we have progressed with where we're going to go with this COVID. If we change presidents right now, I think we're going to upset the apple cart right now. It's almost like stirring a beehive if we change presidents with the intricacies of COVID-19 and the other political aspects of what's happening. I think
All right.
no president's ever going to be perfect, but I think he should stay where he is right now. I wouldn't change it. Keep him there. It's better the devil you know than the devil you don't know.
Okay. So that leads to the next question.
Mm-hmm.
How has your practice changed over time since the pandemic?
Wow. First it sunk down to nothing because of panic and fear. And suddenly I had to do a plan B, C, D, and E and continue on. What the heck's going to become of me now and my practice? Well, within a few days after the shock and awe was settling down, I started to do a different type of broadcast on Spreaker. I changed it, a different type of YouTube presentation, and a different type of Q&A when I do my live Q&A on YouTube. And I started to just, let's talk about on Heal Us how we're going to work and get through all this. I started changing my mentorship to let's get with the program and deal with what's at hand instead of going into the panic stage. Let's go into let's deal and just adapt, because that's the only way we're going to get through it. And that did help a lot of people on the Heal Us and Let's Talk with Cheryl Rose. I changed it more towards not let's who's coming out on top with new records and new music, but I changed it to let's make sure we all work together, and this is the best way to do it. And I started to sort of use a little humor in there, talked about how the refrigerator was the center of attraction at the first couple of weeks. And then I stopped going to the refrigerator. You know, that's the human condition. I talked about the human condition. And a lot of people called up and were thankful for that, because they did not know who to talk to or who to listen to. I think I was the only one talking about it.
Yeah.
You know, I had jumped in there and said I'm just going to sink or swim, but I know I'm going to swim because everybody out there is going to talk about something I have to say. They can relate. They can relate to worry. They can relate to fear. And then I just put it into a different format so that I could keep attracting the clientele, but also keep those who followed me in a secure mindset, so to speak. Humbly, I say. I like to think that's the way it worked out.
Okay, nice. All right. Cheryl Rose, we want to know, what makes you angry about the podcast industry?
What makes me angry is the podcast industry likes to play some games with people who are very, very creative and thinking that their podcasts are going to be out there, and suddenly they're stopped mid-track with your contract's going to change if you don't upgrade. Some hidden wordage that was not explained correctly, and people who are creative in making their podcast work do a hard job of putting it together. They make it perfect, they make it out there, and suddenly the podcast industry is changing with left and right attack on, let's say, how much you're going to pay per month, per year for your subscription in order to have the privilege to be on the air. And that could make somebody very, very angry, upset, and confused about what did they sign up for. Where are my podcasts going to be? Are they still going to be shared with all the other media sites? What do I do? And how do I handle it? So I think a lot of people have gone through that, and the heavy hitting of the advertisements from certain podcast organizations to have you sign up for more and more and more, let's say, classes or how-tos, when you already know how to, you know? So that's what makes me angry is taking advantage of people, especially the creative souls who are putting things out there on the air. And who cares what their genre is? They're being attacked and abused by, let's say, a corporate contract that was misleading.
Okay. I understand. We understand. And Cheryl Rose, we want to know, because usually in a podcasting business, a podcast generates money for the creator, and the advertisements. Can you share and tell us what is the money in the podcasting business like? Is it working well for you, or is it kind of slow? What kind of budget are you working with in the podcasting business?
Well, it's actually working for me because my private clientele are calling me to have readings or sessions, or even the corporate people are calling me to do a Zoom presentation for public speaking. That's where my monetization is coming through from the public.
Okay.
The monetization from the podcasting is slim. It's not a gigantic. Well, I'm not reaping a big harvest, even though I'm out there all the time. It's not generating the way that they had prescribed it would be. I think down the road that will change, as everything does. It gets bigger and better. But right now, I'm getting it from my public, the people who I am reaching. That's where I'm making my financial windfall, let's say.
Okay.
I'm monetizing myself.
Excellent. Cheryl Rose, can you tell us what superpowers do you have in the podcast business and why?
What simple powers?
What superpowers?
Superpowers. I have a superpower because I'm not intimidated to go on the air.
Okay.
Everything I do is without a script. I just do everything right off the cuff. And my superpower is I'm not afraid. I'm not intimidated. I have conviction with what I'm feeling, doing, seeing, and saying, and that's what I'm putting out there, and I enjoy it. That's my superpower. I enjoy, and I'm not intimidated. I love to be out there talking. I love to make people laugh and smile.
That's good. Cheryl Rose, name something you don't love about the podcast industry and why.
What I do not love is the fact that I'm not being played as much as I was, let's say, given the opportunity when I signed up on a certain site to be played. I would like my podcast to be played more often on that cog wheel like YouTube has, where they keep showing my video over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
More podcasts I make, I would like more of that to be aired and aired regularly. And I don't want to have to worry that it's going to get lost in the shuffle. I want my podcast to be heard because they're very important, just as yours are. I want yours to be heard more. Let them keep playing and playing and playing them, because once you make an episode, I don't want it to just sit there. I want it to keep being played.
Yes.
And it should be, because if people don't hear us today, I would like them to hear us next week too.
Yes, and
without having to go down into the person's web page or their YouTube site and say, let's listen to this one. I want it to just keep on rolling.
That's right. That's right. And Cheryl Rose, how many podcasts do you own?
73.
73.
Yes, sir, 73. And they're all downloaded. And if I had 2 or 3 that I misedited, I would say they're out there in the shuffle somewhere. I'm not going to count them. The ones I did with a person last week, they didn't have the sound up correctly, so I can't count those because they were not produced correctly. So that's what I have, 73, and I have 85 videos on YouTube.
Okay, so we want to know, how does the podcast make you money?
It makes me money by continually letting people know my name, and what I say and do is I am continually on the same track. I do not deviate from the norm. They can count on hearing Cheryl Rose, knowing what I'm going to say and what lines of thought process I'm going to be, and when the jokes are going to come, and when they're going to laugh, and when they're going to hear reality, and that's when they're going to give me a phone call, 201-708-3441, and book a session or book a corporate Zoom. That's how it's going.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm advertising for my own self, even though I'm educating the public. I'm still advertising my own name, Cheryl Rose. I am my own brand, and my own brand is being counted on by multitudes of people. When is he coming next? What is he going to say next? Just like with Jay Blue, I'm interested in knowing, as I was interested in one of the last ones you did. I put into the comments, and people listening our podcast, please comment on them and like and subscribe. It's very important, and that's how our podcasts, I do believe, are really shown and heard more. I commented and I said, I'm looking forward to what J. Blue Sanders has next. I want to hear and see what you have up your sleeve, because it's so interesting. And that's how I feel mine are. I know my audience wants to hear and feel and see and be and have something that they can grasp onto.
Yeah.
Whether it's the entertainment part or the educational part.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Cheryl Rose, we want to know, what's one of your memorable responses you've had on your episodes?
Memorable responses. Wow. When I was doing the medium work or the reading on off the cuff or on one of your episodes that I did, they asked me, would you read this girl? Would you give this girl a psychic reading? And I didn't know her, and I said, of course I will. And I just started reading Unique and Lady Chance, and everything came out so beautifully. I was amazed at myself because all of a sudden there I am on the spot, but I just go into Cheryl Rose mode and I just start doing what I do for other people on the spot, readings. And it all turned out to be on point, which was she had, started to ask me some serious questions and set me up to sort of either fail or sail. And I always sail because it's just going to come through. That's just the way I am with my work, with my spirit contact. So that would be the answer to that particular question. And you're asking some very good questions today. Excellent questions.
Thank you, Cheryl Rose. And this episode is episode 13, Cheryl Rose, streaming on my podcast, DJ Blue Radio, The J Blue Show, streaming on Spreaker.com and Spreaker Podcast Player. And don't forget, this episode will be available on demand on YouTube under Immortal Master Floppy. That's episode 13, Cheryl Rose. And just to add something before we lead to the next question, if you have a handful of questions like I do, if you have a handful of questions that I'm asking Cheryl Rose, you can email them to arts@newsandmediarepublic.org. That's arts@newsandmediarepublic.org for a possible feature on the site, and include a photo of your creative space and some examples of your work or links on how to get them. So if you have a handful of questions like I'm asking Cheryl Rose, you can email those answers to arts@newsandmediarepublic.org for a possible feature on the site. And we love you, all the listeners, all the fans. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you like and comment and share this episode. Cheryl Rose, we love you. Thank you for being a special guest. We have some more questions for you. Yeah, we have some more questions for you. This one is going to be about what food, drink, and song inspires you to do your podcast. To do your episodes.
Well, if I don't eat good food, protein, I'm not gonna be good at all because I need to have not a sugar jolt, but I eat a diet pretty much well balanced of fruit and vegetables. But I have a protein shake in the morning that I make on my own. It's like a smoothie with yogurt and some blueberries, raspberries, or even cherries if I have them, strawberries, and I put some ice in there, and I put some stevia sugar in there, and that's how I start my day off. And then I do a podcast right on after. And what I drink is water, cold ice water. It's regular, the Poland Spring ice water. Mm-hmm. That's always next to me because I'm talking all the time. So it has to be ready to be sipped. And if I have a sore throat from talking so much, then it's hot tea with honey.
Oh, nice.
Yes. Chamomile or, let's say, just regular tea, whatever Lipton tea bag is available on the fly. Just make sure there's hot water and honey available, and I'm good to go. Because you have to keep your throat lubricated. As you know, we talk and we have to breathe a certain way in order to be broadcasting. And you know how you have to sort of sit up in a better position. You can't slouch. You have to sit up so your spine is straight, so your lungs get air in there, and you're able to speak loud, clearly, correctly, and you come across a certain way if you sit that way. Because you've got to have something in your system that is plentiful and bountiful to the human body, because you're doing a mind, emotional, body. It's physical, it's emotional, it's spiritual, it's mental. Everything is involved in doing our podcasts. Everything. You have to concentrate and sometimes you just got to let yourself go. But that in you, that's inside you, that natural come across attitude that you have, you're going to treat your body a lot better when you know you're doing good on the podcasting, because you're not going to be able to do it right out of bed. You have to prepare, make sure your mind is ready, and you have to eat and drink good, positive foods, and we have good, positive foods available. If there's a Twinkie and that's all that's available, I'll pass it up. I'll take the tea.
Okay.
I don't want the sugar. I want the natural stuff, because that's what keeps me sustained throughout the day. Those types of foods. Again, the water, hydration all the time. Keep the throat lubricated all the time.
Okay.
Keep the mind sharp, you know? And if you're having a bad day, don't get on the radio. Do something else, you know? Just don't get on if you don't think you can do it that day.
Okay.
You know? Or do it later on in the day.
Do you want to share a song that inspires you to do your podcast?
Oh, sure, a song. Yes, that's right. Sometimes I get carried away. Well, there's many songs, but there's a song called Get Lucky that was written and produced by an individual that I'm going to tell you, I went to his concert and I danced on the stage with him, Nile Rodgers, and he is one of my fans and supporters of my YouTube show, Cheryl Rose Spirit Guidance. Nile Rodgers has been around since the beginning of time. He has written and produced hundreds and hundreds of songs since before you were even born. And he wrote a song called Get Lucky. I always play that song. Not only did I dance on stage with him in New York City to that song, but it's written because the man had cancer. He was diagnosed with cancer. And he uses the techniques that I promote in helping to heal your own body with your mind. And he beat it because he used his mind, body, and soul to heal himself of the cancer. And he wrote a song called Get Lucky. And Pharrell Williams did another, they wrote another song with the Daft Punk group with Nile Rodgers, the same song, done more of an upbeat with Pharrell Williams. And if you listen to Get Lucky, you're going to understand what he's talking about. Not just get lucky on one area of your life, but on every area of your life. He wrote that song when he was cancer-free. And he only did that song because he used positive mental thought. That the body can be healed because we were given all the techniques and all the tools to heal ourselves when we were born. It's been given to us. We were born with it, and we use it. He uses it, I use it. And when we both got together, we realized we were both on the same track. And that's when he said, why don't you come to one of my shows? He happened to be in New York in 2 weeks. I was there dancing on stage November 2nd, 2019. I was rocking the stage with Nile Rodgers. And if you see how many songs this guy has written and co-produced and who he's worked with, you would play the song every day when you wake up too. Get Lucky, Nile Rodgers.
Okay. For sure. Cheryl Rose, how old are you and where are you from?
I am from the state of New Jersey, right outside New York City, and I am a young 54 years old.
All right. I'm sorry I didn't ask that question earlier on the episode.
Quite all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, don't worry. I'll put that in the comments. It's in the description. Make sure that everybody make sure that you follow and subscribe to Let's Talk with Cheryl Rose on Spreaker.com and on YouTube. And also, her social media is going to be in the description, so you can check out her Facebook. And I think you have an Instagram and a Twitter account, don't you?
I have the Twitter. The Instagram was not working out for me as well. There's many different Cheryl Roses, and I sort of got mixed up with too many Cheryl Roses. So I decided Instagram was not going to be for me. It didn't produce what I thought it would for me, but miraculously the other social media sites are. So I just took one out and pumped up the others, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And of course, here I am on the podcast with you on the Spreaker. So everything we do, I upload to Facebook anyhow. So if they can't find me somewhere, they're going to find me on the Facebook, which is just Cheryl Rose. And you see a picture of me. I use the same picture on mostly every single podcast, so you know that's me. And all you have to read is the title. And I don't change the picture very much because the branding that I'm using is the picture that I think comes across the nicest. And all the other videos, I do interchange some of the photos because you have to put a different thumbnail in for the YouTube. And this way I know. I do so many videos, I know by heart exactly what picture I'm looking at. I can tell what video that was. You know?
Yeah.
And I go back and I look at them and say, oh, okay. Now I know where things are. And I can see what's working for me. Instagram didn't work.
Right.
There were too many things happening on Instagram to confuse people for what I do.
Okay.
It's easier to keep it simple. I keep it simple.
Yeah, just one step at a time. Yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
Well, that's good. That's really good. Now this leads to the next question. What's one of your most embarrassing moments in the podcast business?
Most embarrassing moment, I would have to say, was I got angry when I was doing a podcast at what was happening in the world, and I put that podcast out there, and I was not myself. I sort of was I was commenting on the riots and trying to tell people, stop doing that. What are you doing? The consequences are going to be worse. Let's not do this action. I shouldn't have even put that out there, but I felt compelled to say it. I said, if I don't say it, then I'm going to be upset that I didn't. But it was sort of like me scolding people, and it was true with what I was saying. Others asked me, I use that on my podcast. I said, sure, you can share it. It was shared by a lot of other people on the Spreaker platforms that listened to me.
Okay.
They wanted to use it as an example, but I didn't. I did not like the way I came across because it showed how angry. I wasn't nasty. I was just not my usual self. I was very upset, trying to, teach people a different way of going about it. What are the consequences if you burn this down and that down? It's not going to be rebuilt, and I should have just stayed out of it. But turned out other people liked it. But me personally, that's the answer to your question.
Okay, and what did you learn out of that embarrassing moment?
Stay out of for Cheryl Rose, when I'm podcasting, best to keep it to what I am always speaking about and not go into politics or religion. Because when I do that, I step into a different zone, and what I am promoting with Cheryl Rose is to make people better. And I have to stay. I learned over time exactly what you just asked me. I learned to stay on track and stay within the boundaries that I set myself up to be. What am I? What am I all about? And I stick with that same recipe. If I change the recipe, it'll screw me up and screw everything else up.
Yeah.
So I stay with my own boundaries, you know, and keep it going that way. And I can flourish. If I don't flourish, and then I have to recalculate my plan of action.
Amen to that.
So that's, I learned that way. You just learn by doing it. And as many podcasts as you've done, I know you can feel and hear what I'm saying, but you just learn exactly where you've got to be and where you can grow.
That's right.
Because there's always going to be growth, and you learn only by your mistakes, and you learn only by incidents, just like you're asking in these great questions.
Thank you for sharing, Cheryl Rose. Let's give Cheryl Rose a round of applause. Yo, yo, yo. DJ Blue Radio, the J Blue Show. I'm your host, J Blue Sanders, and you're listening to episode 13, Cheryl Rose, on my podcast, DJ Blue Radio, the J Blue Show, streaming on Spreaker.com and Spreaker Podcast Player. And this episode will also be available on demand on YouTube under Immortal Master Floppy. That's episode 13, Cheryl Rose. And we have Cheryl Rose with us right now. How you doing? How you feeling right now, Cheryl?
Hi, baby dolls. Cheryl Rose here. I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Please like, share, and support this episode. Leave a comment. We have the chat room in Immortal Mr. Floppy on Spreaker.com and Spreaker Podcast Player. Make sure that you leave a message, a request, anything. Let's engage and show some support for Let's Talk with Cheryl Rose, also known as Cheryl Rose. And now, this leads to another question here. Actually, we'll probably, I don't know how much time you have left, Cheryl, but we'll wrap it up in about 5-10 minutes, and then, we'll have, we can't wait to have you on the next upcoming episode because,
I am privileged. I'm privileged to be on the next one. I can't wait.
We don't want to give everybody
my calendar is open for you.
We don't want to share everything right now. We don't want to give everybody everything. We want to keep them in suspense. So,
exactly.
You're more than welcome.
Exactly.
You're more than, and the next upcoming show, we'll have some more wonderful questions for you, but we don't want to give them everything right now. So, I certainly don't want to run out of questions, but I can't run out of questions with you because you've been making a lot of progress. You're very successful. I hear the fire. I hear the fire in your soul, and I love it. Cheryl Rose, this leads to my question here. This is what we want to know. What we want to know is, what's one of your strongest memories from your childhood?
Wow. The strongest memory from my childhood, I would say, I actually started doing my own broadcasts when I was a kid in the second grade. I got up, instead of show and tell, I started doing a broadcast. Believe it or not, I was emceeing, I had a hairbrush, and I pretended that I was on the radio and interviewing the kids in the class. It just came out.
Excellent.
It just came out. And I look back and I'm like, I had this hairbrush, it was pink, it was, you talk about show and tell, I was ill-prepared. Snap into action, Cheryl Rose goes and starts asking the kids questions. What do you like about this? What do you like about that? This is what I think about this. And I started doing my own broadcast. And I used to start just talking. I non-stop talking about different topics, about what I'm saying now. It's unbelievable. And I was doing my psychic spiritual work at a young age, way back then. So
Yeah.
those are the most memorable experiences when I was a child. I
Wow.
just started talking. I did not bring anything for show and tell, and I did not want to get, yelled at. I just picked up my brush and started, boom.
Wow.
And I was showing and telling. That's how I looked at it. And
Sure.
everybody was like, oh, they were embarrassed to talk.
Okay. Cheryl Rose.
Boy.
Have we ever asked you what's one of your scariest experiences?
Yes, I was at a fun house at Great Adventure on a school trip, and we went into the fun house, and they had people jump out and scare you. I did not want to go in there, but I did. And they jumped out and they scared me, and I screamed so hard that I actually was starting to grab onto other people, like, get me out of here, get me out of here. I did not like that at all. I was freaked out. I'd never go into one of those again. Never. Great Adventure. And that fun house is actually closed down now. They don't even have that because of problems with people jumping out and really scaring people to the point of heart attack. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I was having a panic attack. In the dark, I was grabbing other people. Get me out of here. So I was like with another family when I walked out of the fun house. I walked out with a different family than I went in with. Like, who are you? Huh?
I'm sorry to hear that, but yeah, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Never go into one of those. Don't go into those places. They're not for everybody. They're not for the faint of heart. That's for sure.
Okay, now here's a good one. Will you name up to 3 podcasters that you like to be compared to, if you have any?
Well, I really don't. I mean, you're the one that I could count on podcasting. Fufu, Lady Fufu, she's got some great podcasts. I would put her into that category. And there's a guy who has several podcasts, and his name is Gary. And I don't recall his last name, but he has made several different podcasts that he took down when all this political stuff happened. I think it took him out of his DJ mode. But he was doing a good job at one time. But to be honest, I would say it's you, me, and Fufu. That's the ones I'm looking at right now. Because that's the only ones I see with consistency. The only ones, and I'm humbly saying this because I'm including myself, consistency, always on point with something, and always making it interesting and unique, not boring and, misguided or unedited. It's a cleanly produced show, and it's always there, and it's continual. So that's what I would say. You, me, and she.
Okay, that's what's up. Thank you, Cheryl Rose. Thank you for sharing
Thank you
with
for
us.
asking.
I'm-
Thank you for asking that question. That's a very hard question for me to answer, but it's a very truthful answer.
Well, you're coming up with some really great answers. And Cheryl Rose, we really appreciate your time. And all the listeners, we appreciate your time right now. And don't forget, I'm your host, J. Blue Sanders, and you're listening to this episode on Spreaker.com and Spreaker Podcast Player on my podcast, DJ Blue Radio, The J. Blue Show. And this is episode 13. Cheryl Rose, this episode will be available on YouTube under Immortal Master Floppy. That's the YouTube channel for those that don't know. Immortal Master Floppy. That's the YouTube channel. And on Spreaker.com and Spreaker Podcast Player. And we got Cheryl Rose with us, also known as Let's Talk with Cheryl Rose. And we want to know, how are you doing right now, Cheryl Rose? How you feel?
I'm great. I'm great. I'm wondering what question's going to come next. I'm happy to be here with you on this podcast because, you know, this is a great moment. Number one, it's an honor to be asked to be interviewed. I never take that for granted. And others out there as well, you know, it's an honor to be on your show. And I take it very seriously. I have a lot of fun with it at the same time. And I'm just saying to myself, what a beautiful day this is. I wake up, I'm on the phone with J. Blue Sanders, and here we are having a grand old time and entertaining the folks that are listening and making sure that they like, subscribe, and tune in, and please add a comment here and there. You know, that makes all the difference for the person who's being interviewed and the interviewer.
Yes. Thank you, Cheryl Rose. And just remember, everybody, I want y'all to remember that these handful of questions I'm asking Cheryl Rose right now, you can email those answers to arts@newsandmediarepublic.org for a possible feature on the site. That's arts@newsandmediarepublic.org. And include a photo of your creative space and some examples of your work or links on how to get them. And Cheryl Rose, we have a couple more questions for you, and then we can wrap this up. Is that okay?
Okay. Sounds good to me.
All right. Cheryl Rose, we want to know, what is your favorite artwork in the podcasting business?
Well, I enjoy hearing the artwork that you produce when you're talking to different people who produce music and where and how they've come to become musicians and what genre of music they enjoy. That's what I like. I also like hearing just the DJing stuff and let them play whatever they play, whether it's hip-hop, 80s, 70s, oldies. I just love hearing it that way. And I just love being able to go on to Spreaker and also listen to my own podcast and see how I'm doing. How do I sound? How can I improve myself? How did I sound when I interviewed so-and-so? Or how did I sound when I promoted so-and-so's autobiography or upcoming podcast? Things of that nature. That's what I enjoy.
Right on. Okay. And one more question. And that is, Cheryl Rose, what are you doing right now for your podcast?
Right now I'm thinking of who am I going to call up and ask to be interviewed besides you and Fufu and a couple of other people. My mind is thinking about how am I going to start DJing in between doing my interviews, because that's the next step that I'm going to jump into, DJing and interviewing at the same time and having the songs being played and then a back and forth, let's say, between you and I, and then a couple songs go on that
right
we
on.
discuss and then play.
All right. Okay. That's amazing answers Cheryl Rose came up with today on Wednesday, July 29th. It's a wonderful day, and I just want to remind everyone to just please stay home, keep the social distance, keep those hands clean, and wear those masks.
That's right. You got to keep your surgeon's outfit on. Your Halloween costume is your surgical mask and your gloves, and you stay away from every other person like they have crabs or syphilis. That's how you got to think about it. And then you have no problem.
Yeah, stay safe. Yeah, Black Lives Matter, all lives matter.
All lives matter, Black Lives Matter. And let me tell you, every single individual that breathes on this earth matters. No matter who, what, where, or where they come from, or what denomination, every single person matters. They all matter to me.
That's right. Yeah. So, yep. Cheryl Rose, it was an honor and an achievement to have you on this episode. And
thank you.
It
was an honor being here. It was an honor being on your show.
Thank you so much, Cheryl Rose. Is there any last words you want to say before we wrap this up?
I just want to say, I want to say again, please listen exactly how Jay Blue has professionally introed his show, and please like, respond, comment, and if you do need to get a hold of me and want to book a session, the number is 201-708-3841. Best way to find me, Cheryl Rose, Facebook or on the YouTube. And I appreciate you all listening, liking, and for those who have just found out who Jay Blue is, he's going to continue rising to the top. So listen to him now. I want to see where he is by next year. He's going to skyrocket to the top as I predicted.
Thank you, Cheryl Rose. And you can stay on with me before I wrap this up. I'm going to thank you, everybody. And don't forget, this is episode 13. Cheryl Rose will be available on YouTube on Immortal Master Floppy. Look it up. Episode 13. Cheryl Rose. Also available on Spreaker.com and Spreaker Podcast Player. Episode 13. Cheryl Rose on my podcast, DJ Blue Radio, The J Blue Show, hosted by J Blue Sanders. And everybody, we are out. Peace.
Shaq,
Papa John's wanted to surprise people, so we put Shaquille O'Neal live on video screens inside pizza boxes. Let's listen.
It's pizza time!
What are you doing in a box?
This is my new Shaq-a-Roni pizza. Extra cheese, extra pepperoni right to the edge, biggest slices in Papa John history, and it's bigger than pizza because $1 of each sale is donated to Papa John's Foundation for Building Community.
Try the new Shaq-a-Roni for just $12, only at Papa John's. Offer good through 8/23/20. Prices and participation may vary.